My mother said I'd come crawling back by Christmas. She said it the way people announce rain. Not cruel, not loud, just certain. The way you're certain about things you've already decided are true. That was 3 Christmases ago. I'm still waiting to crawl. My name is Delia Fitch. I'm 37 now. At the time of that conversation, I was 34, a medical billing coordinator, making $41,000 a year in Coalfield, Tennessee, a town where everybody knows your mother, and your mother knows that and uses it accordingly. I drove a 2018 Honda Accord with 94,000 miles on it, and a coffee stain on the rear cup holder I'd stopped pretending to care about. The stain, and I had reached an understanding. It wasn't pretty, but it was honest. I was standing in the driveway with 2 suitcases and a box of books when she said it. On my wrist, my father's watch, a Seiko, silver face, worn leather strap, a small nick on the 9 that I used to trace with my thumbnail when I was a kid sitting next to him in church. He wore it every day for 22 years. When he was dying, pancreatic cancer, 6 weeks, fast and cruel, he held my hand and told me he wanted me to have it. No paperwork. No witnesses, just his hand and a sentence. 3 weeks after the funeral, my mother set it on the kitchen table and gave it to my brother Derek. Man of the house. That's what she said. I didn't argue. I put in my jewelry box and I closed the lid. The morning I left, I opened that lid. I want to tell you what the next 3 years looked like. Not because the ending is what you're expecting, though there is one, and it arrives on a Tuesday night in November, through a phone call I let ring twice before I picked up. If you've ever been told you wouldn't make it without someone, and then you did, and the making it was the strangest, loneliest, most awake you've ever felt, stay with me. To understand what that driveway meant, I need to take you back to what the house was before I decided to leave it. My dad drove himself to his first oncology appointment. I found out because he called me from the parking lot afterward. Not to tell me the diagnosis. He led with a question about whether I'd eaten lunch. That was him. That was exactly him. He was gone in 6 weeks. I drove him to every appointment after that first one. 12 visits. I know because I have the calendar still, not for sentimental reasons. I kept it because I needed to track the medication schedules, and then he died, and I just never deleted it. It sits in my phone like a room I haven't cleaned out yet. Patrice sent flowers to the funeral. Lilies. The card said with love, Patrice and Court. She lives 20 minutes from that funeral home. I'm not saying that to be cruel. I'm saying it because it matters later. After he died, the math of the house became my problem to solve. The mortgage was $1,190 a month. Utilities ran another $280. My mother had her Social Security, $1,340, and a checking account my father had managed for 30 years that she'd never once logged into. She didn't know the password. She didn't know the bank's phone number. She didn't know what escrow meant, and I sat at her kitchen table for 2 hours one afternoon explaining it to her, using a napkin, drawing boxes. I contributed $847 a month. I ran errands. I drove her to the rheumatologist on Tuesdays, to the eye doctor twice a year, and once to the DMV for a form she could have printed at home. I didn't say that. I drove 40 minutes each way, and I did not say that. I told myself, this is what you do. You don't keep score in families. Keeping score is for people who don't actually love each other. Here is what I understand now that I didn't understand then. Not keeping score only works if both sides agree to that rule. Otherwise, it's not love. It's just you alone, watching the board, pretending the pieces aren't moving. Patrice kept score. She just kept it in her favor. What she'd received over the years wasn't a secret. College tuition, 4 years at a university in Nashville, including a meal plan my mother described as necessary in a way she never described my community college costs as anything at all. A car at 16. The $40,000 toward her condo down payment the year she married Court. Our grandmother's china cabinet, which Patrice had wanted since she was 12 and mentioned at every Christmas until she got it. And the week in Destin, the summer before Dad's diagnosis, the whole family except me, because someone had to hold down the fort. I was 32. I held the fort. I watered the plants and paid the electric bill and ate grocery store sushi alone on a Thursday night. And when they came back, my mother said, "You should have come. It would have done you good." She was right. It would have. Patrice turned 32 that same year. My mother ordered a custom cake, fondant lettering, Patrice in gold across the top. I got a grocery store card with a golden retriever on it and a text that said, "Hope it's nice." For the record, it wasn't, but the dog was realistic. Very expressive eyes. Here is my flaw, and I want to be straight with you about this because you deserve the honest version, not the version where I'm just the wronged party. I made it easy. I was the daughter who didn't ask, didn't push, didn't call attention to the gap between what Patrice got and what I got because I had decided somewhere in my early 20s that needing nothing visible meant I was strong. That being low maintenance was its own kind of love language. What it actually was, and I figured this out slowly in Knoxville on evenings when I had nothing to do but think, was proof that I'd been trained not to want. Not by cruelty, by repetition, by a family that ran on transactions where I was the one who refused to submit an invoice. The bill accumulated anyway. I just didn't know it yet. The watch was the one moment I should have understood it. When my mother set it on that kitchen table, my father's watch, my father's specific words to me still warm, and said it should go to Derek. I put it in the jewelry box. I closed the lid. That's not strength. I know that now. That's a woman who'd been taught so thoroughly that her want didn't matter that she couldn't defend even the one thing that was hers. I was very good at enduring things. That was about to become a problem for someone other than me. I applied for the job on a Tuesday in October. Didn't tell anyone. It was a senior billing coordinator position at a regional healthcare firm in Knoxville. $67,000 salary. Full benefits. The kind of listing that looks almost too clean until you read it twice and realize it's just a normal job at normal pay. And the reason it looks too good is that you've been underpaying yourself for 4 years by staying somewhere that needed you more than it valued you. I got the interview. 2 rounds, 1 phone screen. Then the offer. Before I said yes, I did something I had not done in 4 years of living in that house. I looked at the numbers. My name had been on the family checking account since my father died, added for emergency access, which is family language for we need someone responsible and we'd rather not say that out loud. I hadn't opened the account in 8 months. I told myself it was because things were stable. That was partially true and mostly avoidance. I opened it. The balance was $403. The monthly math worked like this. My $847 coming in, my mother's $1,340 Social Security is coming in, $1,190 going out for the mortgage, and $280 for utilities. That left $517 for groceries, gas, and everything else. No buffer. No savings line. Just a number that got smaller toward the end of every month and started over. I scrolled back 6 months. Patrice's name was on the account. She'd been added years ago, back when our father first got sick. I knew that. What I hadn't done was look. 14 months. Not one deposit from her side. I kept scrolling. February. A withdrawal. $3,200. Memo line. Hendricks Contracting. I knew that name. Patrice had mentioned it in November, casually the way you mention things you don't think require explanation. She was redoing her kitchen. New cabinets. Open shelving. Very clean, she'd said. Very current. The $3,200 had not come from Patrice's account. I sat there for 11 minutes. I counted. Not intentionally. I just looked at the clock when I sat down and looked at it again when I stood up, and 11 minutes had gone somewhere. Then I went and ate a bowl of cereal. Aldi brand cornflakes. No milk because I'd forgotten to buy it. Standing at the sink, in the dark, eating dry cereal at 9:47 p.m., looking at the window above the faucet. That's my version of a breakdown. I know. I'm working on it. I accepted the job the next morning. I did not tell my mother. I spent 2 weeks quietly sorting what was mine from what was theirs, which, in a house you've lived in long enough, is harder than it sounds. Things drift. Things blur. You start to forget which mug you brought and which one was always there. I packed deliberately. Books. Work files. The jewelry box with the watch inside. I left the mug. December 19th, dinner. I told her. She went quiet first, not the shocked kind of quiet. The recalibrating kind. The kind that means she's sorting through options. Knoxville. You don't know anyone in Knoxville. I told her I'd figure it out. December 21st. A phone call. The roads are bad in January. Maybe wait until spring. Get settled here first. December 22nd. I just think you're making a decision you haven't fully thought through. I had thought through approximately nothing else for 6 weeks. But I said, I know, Mom. Because that was easier. Because I was still, even then, managing her feelings about my life. December 23rd. My suitcases were in the car before she woke up. The box of books was in the back seat. I'd said goodbye to Derek the night before. I'd texted Patrice that morning. She responded with a thumbs up emoji. 1. Single. Thumb. I came back inside to leave my key on the counter. My mother was in the kitchen doorway. She had her robe on, the gray one, fleece, worn at the cuffs. The coffee maker was just starting to hiss. Cold air coming in from the storm door behind me. She looked at the watch on my wrist. She looked at the suitcases visible through the glass. She said, You're making a mistake. You'll come crawling back by Christmas. You always come back. Then she turned around to start the coffee. I stood there for a moment, not because I was reconsidering.
I want to be clear about that.
I was not reconsidering. I was memorizing.
The robe.
The hiss of the coffee maker. The specific quality of her certainty. How it sat in that kitchen like a piece of furniture nobody had thought to move in 30 years. Then I picked up my keys. I walked to my car. I put it in reverse. I did not look at the house in the rearview mirror. Not because I was afraid to, because I already knew what it looked like. I'd been looking at it my whole life. Christmas Day, year 1. Derek texted at 11:42 a.m. Mom says hi. That was it. 3 words. No punctuation after hi. I stared at it for a moment, then set my phone face down on the carpet next to me. I was sitting on the floor of my apartment, $1,150 a month, 3rd floor, windows that were stuck in the cold, and a radiator that expressed its feelings loudly at 2 a.m. I had pad thai from the place 2 blocks over. I had a tree, $22 from the CVS on Dorchester Road, 3 ornaments from the dollar bin. Silver, silver, red. It listed slightly to the left no matter how I adjusted the stand. Eventually, I stopped adjusting. I sat there, and I looked at that tree for a while. Not sad, exactly. Something quieter than sad. Something that felt like, oh, so this is what it's like to be exactly where you decided to be. No one else's opinion in the room. No one else's comfort to manage. Just the radiator, the listing tree, the pad thai getting cold. It felt strange and fine and like a beginning, even though nothing had started yet. I hired Hugh Nettles in February. Hugh is a certified financial planner with a solo practice in Knoxville. He's 58, looking like a man who spent his 30s building something with his hands and his 40s realizing numbers were more reliable. He has a bowl of butterscotch candies on his desk that look like they've been there since 2009. I took one anyway. He seemed genuinely pleased, like I'd passed a test I didn't know I was taking. It tasted like a good decision. Slightly stale, but fundamentally sound. I told him I had a $67,000 salary, no savings worth naming, and a financial plan I described as, and I'm quoting myself here, vague, honestly. He looked at my accounts for 4 minutes without saying anything. Then, you have a good salary and 3 years of bad habits to undo. Let's start. We started. $340 a month in subscriptions I'd stopped using but never canceled gone. A $60 monthly charge I couldn't identify turned out to be a gym membership in Coalfield I'd forgotten to cancel when I left gone. The recurring Venmo contributions to Patrice, an $80 here, a $130 there, attached to explanations I'd stopped questioning months before I left, for Mom's prescriptions, for the water heater guy, just for now.
Gone.
Hugh didn't ask about Patrice. I didn't explain to her. I just stopped. By April, I had a Roth IRA. By December, it had $4,200 in it. I remember the exact number because I checked it on Christmas morning, sitting in the same apartment, different pad thai place, slightly better tree. The ornament selection had improved. I'd found a box at a thrift store. Mismatched. Clearly someone's old collection. I liked that. I liked inheriting something from a stranger who didn't know they'd given it. No text from my mother. Derek sent a card, handwritten, 2 sentences, his handwriting still identical to how it looked in 3rd grade. Nothing from Patrice. I made coffee. I checked my Roth IRA. $4,200. I went for a walk. Year 2 moved the way years move when you're building something, slowly while it's happening, then fast when you look back. I got promoted in March. Senior billing analyst. $94,000. I sat in my car after the meeting and did not cry, which surprised me, and then I called Hugh and told him. He said, "Good. Now we talk about the condo." I laughed. He did not. That's Hugh. Somewhere back in Coalfield, I later found out my mother was telling Patrice that she worried about me, that I'd probably come around, that people always did. She said this with confidence. She was not right, but she didn't know that yet. I closed on a condo in September. North Knoxville. 1 bedroom, 740 square feet, a kitchen window that faces east and gets good morning light. $28,000 down payment, mine. Saved over 2 years, 7 months, and 11 days. Not that I was counting. Hugh was counting. He had a spreadsheet. He showed it to me at closing like a man presenting evidence at trial. I signed the papers and drove to the new place and sat on the floor. No furniture yet, just me and the echo. And I thought, my father would have liked this. That was the first time I'd thought that without it hurting. The watch was on my wrist. I'd started wearing it daily in June, somewhere between the promotion and the condo offer going through. I'm not sure exactly when it shifted from something I was keeping to something I was wearing. One morning it was just on my wrist, and it felt right. Silver face. Nick on the 9. 22 years of my father's days logged inside it. I stood in the bedroom mirror and looked at it. Not at me. At the watch. Then at me. Hugh's year-end update. Roth IRA at $18,400. Net worth. Positive. For the first time in my adult life, that number had pointed in the right direction. You're ahead of most people your age, he said. I told him that was a low bar. It's the bar, he said. Clear it anyway. I bought a real Christmas tree that year. $65 from the lot on Kingston Pike. A Fraser fir. Smelled like something I didn't have a word for but recognized as good. I decorated it with the thrift store ornaments and 3 new ones I bought myself. Specific, deliberate, chosen. Not inherited. Not handed down. Mine. The condo smelled like pine for 3 weeks. That was the 3rd Christmas. The phone call came in November. I saw my mother's number and I stood very still for a moment, not frozen, just calibrating. It had been a long time since that number had appeared on my screen. I let it ring twice. Then I picked it up. Her voice was careful, measured in a way her voice wasn't usually measured. My mother is a woman of certainties, not carefulness, so the carefulness itself told me something before she said a word. Patrice's husband Court had lost his job. Bills were backing up. Things were, as my mother put it, a little tight right now. She didn't ask directly. That's not how she operates. She framed it as information, just keeping you in the loop, just so you know, in that specific way that means, I am asking and I need you to understand that without me having to say it. 3 years of silence, and she called me like I was a customer service line she'd been on hold with. Your call is very important to us. Please stay on the line. I listened. I didn't fill the silence with reassurance the way I used to. I let it sit there. When she finished, I said, "Let me think about it." She paused, just briefly, like she hadn't expected that particular sentence from me. "Of course," she said. "Of course, take your time." I hung up and sat on my kitchen floor, not dramatically, just sat back against the cabinet and stared at the Fraser for across the room. The lights were on. It was very quiet. Then I texted Hugh. "Are you free this week?" He replied in 4 minutes. "Tuesday at 2. Bring the account numbers." I already had them. Hugh's office smells like old paper and coffee and, faintly, those butterscotch candies. I've been in that office 11 times now. It always smells the same.
There's something steady about that.
I sat across from him on a Tuesday afternoon and I put the account numbers on his desk. The family checking account, 2 years of statements. Patrice's withdrawal history. My contribution record goes back to the month my father died. He looked at the numbers for a long time. Then he took a legal pad and wrote one figure at the top, $42,768. That was what I had contributed to that account over 4 years. Not counting the errands, not counting the drives to the rheumatologist, not counting the DMV, just the direct deposits. The money with my name on it had gone into a household I no longer lived in, paying for a roof over my mother's head and, it turned out, open shelving in my sister's kitchen. Hugh set his pen down. "You're not her safety net," he said. "You never were. You were her preference." I looked at that number for a moment. $42,768.
Specific.
Immovable. The kind of number that doesn't negotiate. Then I drove home, and I called my mother. She picked up on the second ring. Careful again, that measured quality still in her voice, the one that had replaced her usual certainty. She said hello like she was asking a question. I told her I'd thought about it. I didn't raise my voice. I want to be clear about that. I didn't perform anything. I wasn't righteous. I wasn't shaking. I was just a woman with a legal pad figure in her head and 4 years of receipts behind her. I told her what I'd contributed, month by month. The total. I told her about February's $3,200, Hendricks contracting, Patrice's kitchen, the account that had my money in it when that withdrawal went through. Silence. Not the recalibrating kind this time. The other kind. The kind that means something has shifted and the person on the other end is trying to find the floor. "That was different," she said finally. "I know," I said. "It always is." She tried again. "Patrice needed." "I know what Patrice needed, Mom." She shifted then. I could hear it. The way her breathing changed. The way the careful quality cracked just slightly at the edges. She said my name. Just my name, the way mothers say it when they're trying to locate you. "Delia." I waited. Are you coming for Christmas?" I looked across the room at the Fraser fur. $65 from the lot on Kingston Pike. 3 weeks of pine smell. Ornaments I'd chosen myself, specific and deliberate. Not a hand-me-down among them. The watch on my wrist. Nick on the 9. 22 years of my father's days. "No," I said. "But I didn't crawl, Mom. I thought you should know that."
She didn't say anything.
I stayed on the line for 3 more seconds, I counted, and then I said goodnight, and I hung up. I set the phone on the kitchen counter very carefully, the way you set something down when you're afraid of what you'll do if you're not careful. Then I sat on the floor, back against the cabinet. Same spot as after her first call.
The floor was the same.
I was not. The Fraser for lights blinked once, slowly, like they were thinking about going out. Then they steadied. Derek texted 4 minutes later. "She cried after you hung up." I think that's her version of sorry. I read it twice. Then I typed back, "Tell her I know," which was true, and which was also, finally, enough. Patrice did not call. Not that night, not the next day, not the day after that. I hadn't expected her to. Patrice operates on the assumption that silence from her is a kind of punishment. She hasn't figured out yet that some people experience it as a gift. I sat on that kitchen floor for a while. Not because I was devastated. Not because I was triumphant. Because I wanted to feel the full weight of what had just happened. The way you hold something heavy before you set it down for good. The watch caught the light from the tree. Silver face. Nick on the 9. There you are, I thought. There we both are. Christmas morning. My kitchen. The Fraser fir is still up, still lit. One strand slightly dimmer than the others, but holding. Coffee in the machine, the good kind, not the cheap kind, not the kind I bought when I was counting every dollar twice.
Just the kind I like.
I stood at the east-facing window while it brewed. Morning light coming in low and flat, the way winter light does, like it's not sure it's welcome, but it showed up anyway. The watch on my wrist. Silver face. Nick on the 9. I used to wear it because it was his. Then I wore it because they'd tried to take it. Now I wear it because it's mine, and those are 3 entirely different reasons that look identical from the outside. That's the part nobody tells you about surviving something. The object stays the same. You're the one that changes. I have a condo with morning light and a Roth IRA with $18,400 in it, and a job that pays me what I'm worth, and a CFP named Hugh who keeps stale butterscotch on his desk and believes, sincerely, in the moral virtue of compound interest. I have a Fraser fir I bought myself, and ornaments I chose, and coffee I actually like. I have my father's watch. What I lost, I won't pretend I didn't lose anything. The version of my mother who might have seen me clearly. The Christmas table I kept showing up to, hoping this time it would feel like I belonged there. Those are real losses. I'm not going to gift wrap them, but I didn't crawl. I want to say that one more time, quietly, because it still surprises me a little. I didn't crawl. If you're listening to this in a car you're not ready to get out of yet, or in a kitchen that finally feels like yours, you already know what this sounds like. It sounds like this.